Q. Quit. The term quit is not recognized. How the heck do we exit? Exit.
With all the doom and gloom going on lately, I thought it'd be nice to take a little break and watch a video from one of my favorite rainforest animals, the coding sloth. Should you study computer science? Let's talk about how DoorDash switched from a monolith architecture to a microservices-oriented architecture and a lot of the issues that they faced. I think a lot of people, especially beginners, assume that like microservices are like the perfect solution. They're perfectly scalable and they don't come with any side effects, but that's not really the case. Before we get into it, let's first understand why DoorDash would want to switch to microservices in the first place. So to give some context, again, it was in 2020, so at the beginning of the pandemic. You can imagine that DoorDash had a pretty big traffic spike. Just using Google Trends as like a
Well, the name's The Primogen. I'm so happy to be here. I cannot believe Laravel has allowed me to have a microphone. Bold and risky strategies, but I think it's going to pay off. But real talk, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the tap water, maybe it's just the heat, but PHP people are just the nicest people of any developer community. It's just true. And I think Laravel is even the nicer subset. I don't know what it is, but it's just so fantastic. So thank you so much for letting me be here. Thank you for letting me talk. I'm extremely grateful for that. And I do want to thank my beautiful wife. She's not watching. She's probably not going to watch this. I don't really like it when she watches my stuff, but thank you, beautiful wife. Appreciate you. The kids, again, I just do all of this because I have kids to do it for, and I thank you. And of course, God, for letting me have a second chance at life. So, all right, so I'm going to tell a story. It might sound a little bit like humble bragging, so please, you got to walk with me for a second. It's not meant to be that way, but it's just how it's going to come out. So when I joined Netflix in 2013, by the way, Aaron got it wrong. It was 10 years, and then a half a year, not 10 years, and then 5 more years. So I've been there. I was in there December 2013. I was 27 years old, and I got hired on as a senior software engineer. Now, I've only been out of school at that point for about 3 years, and I've only been employed for about 1.5 years. So I wasn't necessarily senior software engineering material. And not only that, but the youngest person on my team was about 32 years old. So not only was I not a senior software engineer, I was about 5 years younger than everybody. And there's 40 people on my team, and I just felt massively like somehow I bamboozled them to let me just come there and actually work on stuff. But for whatever reason, they let me come. And I had the opportunity to kind of join at the beginning of a huge project. It was about a 9-month project, and we had to deliver an entirely new experience on Netflix. So, since I was there a little bit later, I didn't have the seniority. They gave me the worst job, which was to do a Groovy backend. Is anyone familiar with Groovy? Okay, yeah, no one's clapping because it's not fun to be familiar with Groovy. Groovy is an adult-shaped toddler. It is one of the worst languages of all time. Anyone with kids understands what that means. It's horrible. And so I actually had to do that. I had to do it for 9 months to build this back end in Groovy. And of course, I took the opportunity to just do it the best. I knew nobody at the company. I knew no connections. I didn't know Groovy. I didn't know the tech stack. I just went in there and thought, okay, I could do this. I can actually figure this out, and I can do a really good job. And so I jumped in there, and lo and behold, it was successful. We had like no production outages. We invented what we called the slow clap at that point, which means I rolled it out only to 1% of the customers in 2014 instead of all of them. CrowdStrike did not learn from me 10 years ago. You'd think they would have. They did not. And my boss was really happy about that because nobody wanted to work on the back end. Not a single UI engineer wanted it. They all hated it. So he said, hey, could you just rewrite how we do our data structure? Right now it's this way. We've had this 2-year bug. We have to rewrite it. No one wants to do it. And so I was like, oh yeah, I'll do that. I'm familiar with Groovy now. I can do this. So I rewrote that and it went really, really well. So then they asked me to help with Falcor. So I did data fetching for Netflix and got to go on open source talks and do all that. And that kept going really, really well. And then eventually, because of those connections, a man named Guy Sereno said, hey, why don't you do this Extra Life event with me on Twitch? So I did that. And then I really liked doing Twitch, so then I kept streaming. And I started making YouTube videos, and then I accidentally ended up right here talking all this nonsense. And I can attribute it all the way back to learning Groovy, which is kind of a weird roundabout way to make it up here at a PHP conference. It's like a very weird kind of route. I tell all of that because I have to say it before I tell this story. In 2007, I was just coming out of my wayward youth kind of adventure, if you will. For those that don't know any part of my story, I had a teacher in high school handwrite me a letter on nice thick printed paper, nicely signed, saying I was the worst student she's had in 30 years. Like real winning kind of material at that point. Actually, at the age of 18, my grandfather gave me the birthday present of informing me I was out of the family will. So, I've done some things, and I did recover. And so 2007, I'm coming back, and I took pre-calc for the first time ever. I failed. I took it again. I failed. I took it a third time and got a C. C is not that great. I know C's are in degrees, but it's really not that impressive, okay? I'm not even getting, less than 4 out of 5 things right. So it was pretty bad, but I still got through it, and I remember just going that summer saying, I'm not sure if this is desperation or determination, but I'm gonna do calculus. I'm gonna figure this kind of thing out. So I went to summer school, and I spent 2 hours in class. After 2 hours in class, I spent 2 hours at the Math Learning Center. After doing that, I spent 6 to 8 hours doing just at-home studying problems over and over again. And I did this for 5 weeks. And in the first day of class, I was convinced I was the worst student, right? I have no track record of being, achieving much. And so after that, 6 weeks forward, I was objectively, by all standards, the best student. And that moment in my life somehow changed something in me, which was when something is super difficult, say Groovy, a language you never worked on, and a tech stack you never worked on, being the youngest person out of everybody on your team. When all the odds are against you and you're not Gauss smart, right? I wasn't solving anything as a kid. I wasn't out there with the geniuses. That if I just had time and determination, I can achieve anything. And so many people I meet, I cannot tell you how many individual messages, general kind of magical about seeing a problem from a perspective you've never seen before. It just changes how you kind of perceive all the programming. But more so it's the messages, it's the people going, are LLMs gonna take my job? Is it actually worth coding? I'm 25, am I too old to learn to code? Right, you hear that, and I know it's stupid when you've already been coding, but if you haven't been coding, and you've had such a rough go that you're starting to just even.
So back in 2022, I worked at Google as a software engineer and got trained to interview candidates as an interviewer. It was a lot of fun meeting all of the candidates, but I also got to see how much they struggled. What surprised me more than anything else was that data structures and algorithms were not the #1 issue that most people had. You're probably thinking that there's no way that's true, but when you're at this interview stage for a really big tech company, it's really known that the candidate can code. So they have to kind of differentiate them by other metrics, and the biggest one being communication. To better explain, it might make better sense to explain how the entire interview process works at Google. I'll talk a little bit about how it works at each of the stages. For the application, if you're in university, you might be wondering if you need a referral, but to be honest, these companies are so big that they kind of treat a referral like any other application, so you usually don't need to worry about something like that. If I could give one piece of advice at this stage, it's to apply early, because way too many people are procrastinating technical knowledge on it and coding problems similar to what you would see on LeetCode. Most of them are medium in difficulty, so definitely prepare for those. About half the candidates drop off here, so if you make it to the next stage, you're doing really well. Sorry, let me turn off my phone. The software engineer feels secure, but definitely prepare for that and to prepare for an offer. Just a few more interviews and then you'll be able to make your own day in the life video or engineering videos like this one. Anyways, it's going to be at least 3 coding interviews, and they're all going to be testing you on more than just your coding skills, because at this point, everyone knows that you can code. Eager to start coding. When someone asks you what the running time is, people don't want you to just say it's linear or ends.
It's really tough out there if you're a junior developer looking for a job. Every job opening instantly gets hundreds or thousands of applications. If you go on Blind or Reddit, it seems like everybody that gets a job already has a job or graduated first in their class from a top-tier computer science university. And that ain't you. In this video, I'll give you my take on the current job market for junior and entry-level developers and what I would do if I were in your situation. I've survived 3 collapses of the software developer industry, the dot-com boom, the Great Recession, and whatever it is that we're going through right now. And I think the answers are easier than you think they are, even if it is painful. I'm completely self-taught, and I became a software developer at Amazon at the height of the Great Recession, so I know it's possible. The big question is whether the downturn and low availability of jobs for junior developers today represents a permanent shift in the industry. With all of the layoffs, is the end of software as a lucrative career done for? Should you just abandon everything and get a job in the trades? Should you just go be a plumber because AI can't unclog a toilet? Yet. The simple answer is no. It's an absurd idea, and you'll agree with me when I share my reasoning. If you're new to the channel, start with AI. Yes, the demos are all amazing. LLMs can code faster than you can. They can now produce functional code snippets, debug existing programs, and even design simple applications. A couple of years ago, this technology couldn't do squat. And that's the thing with exponential growth. It doesn't take that much time for the numbers to get really, really big. If the growth in capabilities continues to stay exponential, it's not just tech jobs that are going to be replaced. Everybody will be out of a job. While AI's capabilities are still growing, signs of a slowdown are already here. It's like when your buddy meets a new girl and she's absolutely perfect. She's not, it just takes a bit of time before you understand that she isn't. New studies indicate that LLMs can't independently learn or gain new skills. That's a problem if you're trying to replace developers. You train an LLM only on poems, it can't write a good novel. They frankly can't write a good novel now, even though they're trained on novels. LLMs are great for parroting things that they've been trained on, but without the ability to learn about adjacent skills, LLMs will just be a really fancy autocomplete. But Steve, you might say, what if we invented the ability for LLMs to learn? Well, sure, but my wife would be a car if she had 4 wheels. The thing about breakthroughs is you can't predict when they'll come, if ever. LLMs were an amazing breakthrough for sure, but now that we're understanding their limits, you can't just predict another fundamental breakthrough is coming soon. It doesn't work like that. The second bit that doesn't scare me about AI, and that nobody is talking about, is that nobody is making any money from it. Well, maybe Nvidia is, but they're selling shovels during the gold rush. Everybody else is spending a ton of money on AI. Nobody's struck gold yet. Show me a company that has actually replaced devs with AI. I'll wait. Everybody assumes that it'll happen, but just look at where the money is and how it flows. Big picture, when it comes to AI, I'm on team Jan LeCun, the chief AI scientist at Meta. In the future, we'll all have AI assistants that do all of the work that we don't want to do, and they'll amplify our existing abilities. These AI assistants will talk with the assistants of other people. When they do some work for us, we'll check it to make sure that that work matches our intentions. That would be a really big upgrade to our quality of life, but it's not going to result in artificial intelligence taking over the world and making humans obsolete. That's just absurd to me. Like, look at the CrowdStrike outage where code was pushed out and brought down large portions of our corporate software systems. You mean to tell me that we're going to replace devs that have the power to make mistakes with a huge blast radius with an AI that hallucinates and can't reason? Please. But Steve, you might say, look at all the layoffs. Many thousands of developers have been laid off in this recent down cycle. Well, companies are laying people off because they overhired during the pandemic. We're still above pre-pandemic staffing for software developers. And I don't like that attitude. Here's a secret. Companies all copy each other. Sometimes this imitation leads to a really hot market. As we were getting out of the pandemic, everybody was hiring. These create cycles that feed on themselves. During the hiring boom, companies were throwing big money at people to get them to come to their companies. This left an open seat that needed to be filled at the company they left. Since a company with hiring needs is also competing with others with hiring needs, this created a crazy boom cycle. Anybody with a pulse was hired. What we're seeing now with the layoff cycle is companies copying each other again. Companies are trying to trim teams down as much as possible. A lot of companies will trim too much, but the consequences of over-firing take months to years to catch up. So suppose you're a company with 100 developers and you get a mandate to eliminate 20% of them this year and 20% next year, and also to freeze promotions. So you'll be down to a nice round number of 64 people after this 2-year down cycle. The work didn't go away. You still have a roadmap. You still have to keep the lights on and support existing products. Morale is going to go down the tubes. Burnout is going to increase. The senior people are going to leave the team because they have options. I'll tell you right now that AI isn't going to solve this problem. There's another big problem here, which is the impending demographics bomb. When the company finally realizes that they cut too much, they're going to want more senior people first to plug the holes. But they don't have any seniors because they haven't been promoting internally. Nobody has any seniors because the industry collectively decided that they weren't going to hire junior engineers. And that's where senior engineers come from, today's junior and entry-level engineers. The market is going to come back. I guarantee it, unless you think that technological innovation is done. Now, here's what I believe. It's really difficult to predict change. So it's smarter to think about what isn't going to change, which is human and company behavior. Companies are going to copy each other. They're going to run into collective problems. The collective problem they'll run into in the coming years is a lack of software developers and tech workers to build tomorrow's technology. In the late 90s, early 2000s, I made websites for medium-sized organizations. This dried up after the dot-com bust. Well, what were people saying back then? That the technology sector was done, that the internet was played out. What a ridiculous thing to say today. But back then, people really thought that the internet was just another fad. When it comes to software, technology, and the internet, I think we're much closer to Kitty Hawk, where the airplane was invented, than the moon landing. I think technology and the internet are going to evolve in ways that we cannot imagine today. I believe more money will be made on this technology in the future than has ever been made up until this point. And I think that the junior and entry-level engineers of today are going to be the ones that realize that future. So, what should you do if you're a junior or entry-level developer? If you have a job, you need to become a senior developer as quickly as possible. This will protect you if you lose your job, as senior jobs are still out there. Now is not the time to coast if you're employed. If you don't have a job, then you need to kill the clock. If you were thinking about going to school to get a supplementary degree or do a boot camp and you won't go into too much debt, do it. If you've been thinking about starting a company, I would encourage you to do so. It's never been easier to create a website or mobile application. With the advent of cloud computing, you can get something off the ground really fast and get customers in record time. If you can make your own experience, that's great. And if you still can't find a job as a developer, loosen your constraints a bit and start applying to adjacent roles. Maybe you can get your foot in the door as a support engineer, QA, SDET, TPM, project manager, program manager, SysDev, something that is related to software development. My first job at Amazon was as a support engineer contractor. I thought the job was beneath me, but it turned out to be the best thing that could have happened to me. I was able to get exposure in the industry while studying to be a developer from the inside. This choice enabled me to transition to software development at the height of the Great Recession, when nobody was hiring anywhere. Software developers are problem solvers that bring technology into existence. AI simply can't learn on its own. The only way the industry won't rebound is if you don't think that new technology will exist in the future. Junior developers are the people that will take us there. If you're looking to break into the industry, keep your sails up. It's just a matter of time when the wind picks up and you can be there to catch it. If you found this video helpful,
the things people are saying about the guy behind WordPress right now are absolutely brutal. He has main character syndrome, a cancer to his own community. Matt has the legal acumen of a pissed off preteen who thought he was clever. Naming his company Automatic really says it all. Automatic is doing open source dirty. It's sad to watch, really. The internet really seems to hate this guy right now.
Move this man!
which is ironic because it's his own tool that's responsible for over 40% of the websites on the internet. But is he really a tyrannical leader who's losing his mind, or is he actually an open source freedom fighter battling evil private equity firms to make the world a better place? In today's video, you decide. We'll look at a timeline of the recent WordPress drama, which began to spiral out of control a couple weeks ago when Automattic, the owner of the WordPress trademark, requested millions of dollars from WP Engine, one of the most popular WordPress hosting platforms. That's led to a bunch of mean tweets and lawsuits, but the drama hit new heights yesterday with the most controversial checkbox ever implemented on a website. What the hell is going on with WordPress? If you're a JavaScript developer, it may come as a shock to you that nearly half the websites on the internet run WordPress, an open source tool built on PHP and jQuery and easily the most successful website builder of all time. Because why write code when you can just put a bunch of plugins together like Lego bricks? The main reason WordPress is so prolific is that it has a massive ecosystem of themes and plugins that allow both programmers and non-programmers to build almost anything. I've deployed many WordPress sites for clients in the past, and simply hosting WordPress sites is a multi-billion-dollar industry. WordPress itself is licensed under the GNU General Public License, which means you're free to modify and use it commercially as long as derivative works have the same license. But that doesn't include the WordPress logo and name trademarks, which require permission from the WordPress Foundation to be used in any project or product. But what you should know is that the WordPress Foundation is a charitable organization created by Matt Mullenweg. Now, one curious detail is that up until about 2 weeks ago, it said the abbreviation WP is not covered by the WordPress trademarks and you're free to use it in any way you see fit. But that line was recently updated to say now you can't use it if it confuses people, and then proceeds to trash WP Engine. You can find it on WordPress.org, which differs from WordPress.com, the commercial arm of WordPress which provides hosting services, which itself is owned by Automattic, a multi-billion-dollar company where Matt Mullenweg is the CEO. You would think that WordPress.com is the default host everyone goes with, but there's this other highly successful company out there called WP Engine. It makes hundreds of millions of dollars hosting WordPress and is backed by private equity firm Silver Lake, where the main goal is to provide a return on capital, and that means they put far less effort contributing back to the nonprofit arm of WordPress, at least compared to Automattic. And one important fact to know here is that Automattic was an investor and part owner of WP Engine. Words, they don't want them forking but things are about to get a lot crazier. WordPress.org also made a blog post called WP Engine is not WordPress, which reiterates that they don't give enough back and describes how they turn off features like revisions to save money on their backend WP Engine to stop the unauthorized use of their trademark .org repo, thus having a direct
As a video stream, I probably don't look the best, but please.
Oh, you look great. Don't worry about how you look. Don't worry. You have me next to you.
he's fighting a
Hey guys, how you doing? Uncle Steph here. So I got a question that was put to me. Stefan, what's your opinion on the oversaturation of the dev market due to yearly graduated software engineers and self-taught? Do you think there is still a demand for software engineers?
Exit. 2 seconds. You know what? I think I'm overthinking it because it's open over here, so maybe we don't have to worry about it too much. I'm going to go ahead and just close that there. And yeah, it's complaining, saying, hey, you terminate it. I don't care. Well, what I want to do is go ahead and use our previous scripts to figure out what the latest ones we made. So we'll just say list buckets here. And so we have that PowerShell bucket. And I want to go ahead and just delete that bucket. So I'll just go ahead and do that quickly. Bucket. We'll say my PowerShell bucket. It looks like I didn't delete one from there before, so I can probably go ahead and use my script right now and clean that up. Okay. Good. Oh, it says that one doesn't exist, but it has a 2 on it. There we go. So now we have no buckets there, and so we can go ahead and run the script. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go back and, well, before we do that, let's make sure that file's executable. So we'll do S3 and we'll say PowerShell scripts, and then we'll choose that, and I'll type in clear. And so that is now executable. We'll start up PowerShell again here. Hopefully it doesn't complain. We'll do pwd. Now, those aren't actually the native commands for PowerShell. I'm pretty sure they are something like get location will get you the same thing. But of course, when people are working with Linux, they're used to those commands, so they give you all the variations. So if it's pwd or dir, which people are used to older stuff, you have more flexibility there. But these, of course, are not necessarily the native commands. So like, for instance, ls or dir or get child item. So you can see that there is some similarities and things that are different. But anyway, what I'm looking for is I want to execute this script. So I'm going to do period S3, and then we're going to do bash scripts. And, oh, not bash scripts, PowerShell, that's what we're doing here today. PowerShell scripts, and we'll do S3 PS1, and hopefully this works. It's asking us what do we want the bucket name to be. So I'll say my PowerShell AB, and then I'll just put some random numbers in here, and then hopefully it creates. Notice it was super fast this time. Maybe because the first time it ran, it had to install something or something, I don't know. But it says that it created, so that's really good. We can continue on with our script here. So we've created our bucket. It might be great if we've already printed out the bucket name, so that's fine. Maybe we could go ahead and create a file. So let's create a new file. So we'll have file name, and we'll say my file name, myfile.txt, and then we'll have the file contents. And we'll just say hello world. And so yeah, I remember some PowerShell. Set content path, file name, and then there's, I believe it's like value, there's path, and it's something like, yeah, it's value, value, file content. So, that should set that there. And so now what we can do is go ahead and write to the bucket. So if we go back over to our documentation, wherever that was, here, there should be one for writing or putting or something. So go back. The reason I say write is because, again, it's based on convention in terms of names, and I have a feeling that's what it's called. And it is, I believe it would be write S3 object here. So this looks very similar to our put. So we'll go back over here and start writing that. So we'll do write S3 object. And we'll do bucket name, and so then we'll put the bucket name here, and then we'll have the file, our file, and this will say file name. We'll have our key, and then we'll make this also the file name, because we're not doing anything fancy here. We might as well just keep it simple here. I don't know if we need anything else. I think that's about it for that. So let's go ahead and try this again. Now we already have a bucket. I wonder if there's like a way of doing conditionals here. Let me figure that out. All right, so I looked it up, and what we can do is we can create a function, and that's probably the best way to do it. So what we'll do here is we'll go ahead and create ourselves a new function. We'll just say bucket exists. Okay, and from there, what we'll do is we'll first get a bucket to see if it already exists first. So say get S3 bucket, and we'll just provide its bucket name. And we have to provide, I believe, an error action. So we probably want this to, look this up, error action, silent, continue. That's probably what we want. If PowerShell script halts or a portion of the code does not work, what action do you want to happen? So the idea is that we just want it to silently fail. I think that's probably the best option. Again, we're not getting really into the depths here of PowerShell, just trying to get a PowerShell script working and get kind of comfortable writing some. And so then we'll just specify what this here to return the bucket. Otherwise, we'll get null. So I guess the next thing here would be to actually check now. So for our thing here, we'll say if not, and then we'll say bucket exists. Okay, then do this. Otherwise, do that. And so if the bucket doesn't exist, do that. So and we'll, down here, if it does exist, we'll just say bucket already exists. I'll go up here, bucket does not exist. If that's the case, then it'll just skip that step. So hopefully that will work as expected. We'll go ahead and hit up, and I'll just, I already forgot the bucket name, but it's my PowerShell AB 6436. The term get bucket, I think I forgot the hyphen there. Yeah, that's why I wasn't highlighting properly. Let's try this one more time. And we'll go down here. And I'm not sure how to get that out of there, as it's complaining quite bad. So sometimes that happens. We'll just close that out, and I'll open up this here, and we'll try this in PowerShell. Whoops. Oh, this one's done too. There we go. Now it's back. PowerShell, and yeah, we'll go back to. And I don't remember what we named that bucket, so we'll go back over here. It was like PowerShell or something. PowerShell. AB542. Okay. We called this My PowerShell Bucket. My PowerShell Bucket AB 542. AB 524. 524. Not even saying the right numbers here. We'll hit enter. And fingers crossed, fingers crossed. It's thinking, so that's usually good. But yeah, again, I don't know why there's lag with PowerShell. I have no idea. Bako probably knows. But I'll just be back. I'll pause so we don't have to wait here forever, okay? That was really slow, and now we're waiting for the next step. Oh, while I was waiting there, I was asking Bako, why is PowerShell so slow? And he tells me it's because of .NET, because it has to stand up and tear down stuff. It sounds awful, but that's what it is. So here it looks like it created the bucket. Did it actually write our file? I don't know. I didn't see anything for that. So we'll go back over here. Fingers crossed that we have a file. We do have a file, and so I would call that nearly successful. We didn't actually write the contents of the file. So I'm going to go back here, and we'll save that. And we'll try it one more time, okay? So I'm going to try this one more time, and we'll put that name in again. And then we'll call that good enough for using PowerShell. So hit enter. I'll see you back here in a bit, okay? All right, so waiting a little while there. It looks like our file is probably in here now, and it is. We're in good shape. We are all done here. I don't even care about deleting the bucket. That's how tired I am of PowerShell. I'm going to go ahead and delete this file. I don't really want this file to be right there. I just created it in place. Probably should have told it to create it in the temp directory, but that's okay. We'll go ahead here and just add these files. And we'll just say PowerShell scripting. And you can't say I didn't show you PowerShell. Yeah, for AWS. But again, not going to happen very often, but get some exposure to it, and that should be sufficient there. Just stop my workspace, and we'll see you in the next one. Ciao. All right, so let's get to it with Amazon S3 and utilizing SDKs, as we've done a lot of different programming things with S3. We've done PowerShell scripting, Bash scripting. We know the difference between the S3 CLI and the S3 API, and so one of the most common ways of interacting with AWS services, and specifically S3, is by using software development kits. This allows you to use your favorite programming language to interact with the cloud service provider API. AWS has probably the largest selection of languages that in SDKs that you can use, and they even have my favorite, which is Ruby, and we will be using Ruby today, as well as Java, one of my lesser favorite languages. But I think it's very important as a cloud engineer or DevOps engineer or any technical role that you're comfortable with any of these languages. You don't have to be an expert in them, but you need to be productive. And so I think that we're just going to keep mixing it up every time we have a chance to use an SDK. So maybe in one we'll use PHP, we'll see. But let's go ahead over to the AWS Examples website. I'm opening this up in Gitpod. Of course, use whichever cloud developer environment or local developer environment that you want to use, but just understand that you may need to provide your own configuration or make your life easy and utilize Gitpod as well, which also has a generous free tier. All the configurations are set up in the Gitpod YAML file, and they're already installing them in. So on the right-hand side, you can see these are installing. We have the AWS CLI. I already have my environment variables set in here, my AWS credentials. So that is something that you'll need to do. But anyway, what I'm going to do is go on the left-hand side here. We're going to make a new folder called SDK. And within that folder, we're going to make a new two new folders, one called Ruby, and the other one will be called, this one will be called Java. So let's go ahead and work through some Ruby code. Ruby is not going to be too hard here. So the idea is we'll need a Ruby file. So the Ruby file we'll just call it s3.rb. And we're also going to need a gem file. So the way Ruby works is it has a package manager called bundler, and its commands are called bundle. Now this machine already has Ruby installed. I can just go here and type in Ruby version. It also has Java installed. So understand that you might have to install these on your systems. This one's using 3.2.2, so that's really good. I want to go ahead and create a gem file. So we'll use bundler to do that. So I'm going to go and just cd into the SDK Ruby directory here. I'm going to say bundle init, and that's going to create me a gem file. So in this gem file, it is pointing to Ruby gems. Ruby gems is where it gets its libraries from. So we're going to install a few here. The first, we'll close the editor here, but the first is going to be the gem AWS SDK S3. I believe that's what it is. I'm going to also want pry for debugging. That is a debugging tool for making breakpoints in Ruby, very useful. And I think we have to install Nokogiri or it's going to complain. Nokogiri is it's for parsing things like parsing XML. So when you're working with APIs and going out to the internet, they need some kind of parsing library. You get to choose whichever one you want. Nokogiri is the classic one for that. But yeah, Ruby utilizes a modular SDK. A lot of these ones do that. I believe Java does that as well. I think they do. Well, yeah, I guess they would because you include packages separately. We saw with PowerShell that it was modular. But yeah, that's usually the approach. Just include what you want. But we can go over to the Ruby tab here, and we can go over to AWS SDK for Ruby. I think they're on version 3 now. So if we go into the API reference docs, over here, I would say that the reference docs are good based on, and then we will pass in here the actual file. It can be really tricky putting an object. I think I said this earlier, but depending on your use case, it can be very tricky to pass or write the file. It knows S3, and it should. So I ran into an issue. Type dev. Okay. The option that specifies you want to calculate that. So I'll go hit enter and see what it says. Does not have an O option. I mean, I don't know if this is installed on this machine. It's not, but OpenSSL should be. So let's do that. OpenSSL is almost installed on all cloud developer environments. Again, if you're using your own local development, you'll have to figure it out yourself. But let's go ahead and try this instead. Invalid command does not provide it. So I'm going to go ahead and try to install this. So we'll clear this out, and I'm going to say sudo apt get install crc32, and it looks like I've been able to install that. And we'll go back here and try this again. So my file.txt. We'll hit enter. It's saying the command is not found. Why did I just install it if the command's not found? Oh, it says unable to locate the package. So, okay, how do I do that? So we'll try this again, crc32 Debian, because that is what Gitpod is using here. Command. And so I came up with this, although it's a little nasty, should work on most platforms in modern Linux anyway. Okay, is that really what we want to do? Well, let's find out if that works. Hey, if it works, right? Where's the file? How do we supply the file? I mean, that's the string. So here we're providing the string, but that's not for the particular file. So it's not necessarily a good example. I don't really like that. CR32. Okay, let's go ask them. How do we install CRC32 on Debian? Okay, we definitely did that. apt-get install and apt-get are the same thing, or app install. One's just shorter form. So I'll try this again. The only thing I didn't do is I didn't update. So usually you should do that before you try to install things. I was just trying to save myself some time. And that could be the reason why it's not pulling it, because there could be a later one here. No, it cannot find that package. Give me a second, okay? All right, some people are recommending rhash as a package. I'm going to go ahead and try that. So we'll do, well, is it already installed, rhash? No, it is not. So I'm going to say rhash. Yes. I mean, that installed, so that's a good indicator. I can go back here and change it. Really silly that we have to go through so many iterations, but that's sometimes how it is with Linux. And then I'll go back over to here, and this one will do this. I just need the checksum of a single file here, so we'll go ahead and paste this in here as such. And this will be my file. Looks like it can do multiple files if we want. Let's go ahead and try this out. Okay, there we go. So we have our hash. And so now we can go back up to here. And I suppose we're supposed to supply the value here as such, right? So say AWS S3 put object, and we'll want the bucket here, and we'll want the key, and we'll want the body. So the body will be myfile.txt. The key will be myfile.txt. This is going to be the bucket here. I'm actually going to make this one different. I'm going to call this one CRC32, because that other one might still be there. And let's see if this works. Again, never ran this before, but I have confidence that we can get this to work. We'll go ahead and hit enter. It doesn't like something that I've written here. I don't know, but I'm just going to, just to be consistent here, I'm just going to go ahead and kill that out. So equals, and just wrap these up so they're all consistent. We don't want to give it any reason to complain, so. I think the reason it's not working, I spotted this while writing this here, is because I forgot to put S3 API in front of here. Try this again. Hit enter. Body blob values must be a path to a file. Well, it is. Oh, it's not an actual file. Sorry, I want the key to be called that and not the actual body. So we'll flip that around there and we'll try this again. We'll go ahead and hit enter. And it says the specified bucket does not exist. It doesn't. I'm pretty sure it does. Maybe we lost like a character. Yeah, we lost a number there on the end. So we'll try that again. We'll go ahead and we'll try this. We'll give it a go.
Meiji. And the worst thing is having to go back to a project manager or a scrum master and say, hey, I need to add a new user story for this new document that I need to write. I mean, you're almost like guaranteeing that you're going to be micromanaged if you do things like that. Why does it even matter if we write good code like a senior programmer or not? Well, first of all, it lets other people understand our code. You've probably found
I heard you liked factories, so I made you a factory inside a factory which inherits. I heard you liked factories, so I made you a factory inside a factory which inherits from an abstract factory so it can create new factories. But enough about programming in Java. In this video, we will learn about 8 design patterns every developer should know. I heard you liked.
The strategy pattern is my favorite software design pattern. It's a behavioral pattern that allows us to write interchangeable code so we can select the right strategy based on the situation. Let's take a look at an example. We want to write some code where we send out a notification to our user, but there's multiple ways we can send out notifications. Using the strategy pattern, we can create a common interface to